Welcome to the Busy Guy Show. My name is Vince LoCascio, and I'm a busy guy, but I got a much busier guy here, Tommy Cornille. He's president of George J. Cornille and Sons Produce Company in Chicago, Illinois. Tommy.
Good to be here, Vince.
It is great. I mean it from my heart to have you here. And thanks, because I know you are a busy
It's
guy.
a kindred spirit.
Well, welcome to the show. If you want to tell us a little bit about the company and how it got founded by your grandpa, George J. Cornille.
Well, in heritage, as we all know, so many of us came years and years back from another country. My family heritage, as far as the farming goes, and my paternal side was French-German or Alsatian. And a lot of wonderful farmers. They did a lot of things like root products, potatoes, onions, shallots, things like that. And they settled here in the Chicagoland area and farmed on two farms, one around the Edgewater, Ravenswood area, and the other one not too far from here in Bensonville, where it had some of the richest muck and humus soil. So it was great for both ends, climate-wise by the lake and soil-wise over here by Bensonville and the airport. And the heritage was family preservation, two things that every city's found out.
Tell me there's a story you shared about your grandpa was pretty upset when they built O'Hare, the reason being.
Oh, the one farm. I was explained to my father had already passed on, and that was back in the early 60s, but my father said that he shed real tears. And I said, Dad, why? You know, because he lost the farm, was a source of revenue, were we hurting? He had no son. He said, you don't understand that some of the best soil in the United States was blacktopped and never to come back. And so your grandfather, what was part of his and how he grew so many good vegetables and made so many good friends and was a stalwart in the community, all of a sudden, gone forever.
And he originated where? From Lille, France?
From Lille in France. It's in the Alsatian region in France, close to Germany. So I'm trying to relate it to the United States. It was an area that ate real food, like the Midwest probably, like heartland food. A lot of cucumbers, a lot of potatoes, a lot of root items, a lot of shallots. Not so much like the hoity-toity things, but the real things. But there's so many good restaurants in that region because the art and the technique of cooking was magnificent.
And you have relatives still there, or have you had the
Still.
opportunity to go?
Still, I've never made it to that part. You know, it's a little bit more, our work is a little more demanding. It's a day by day, every day. It's at 2 o'clock in the morning. It's a regime, it's a routine, it's a service. You pledge allegiance in our industry.
And you sure do. In the farm itself, it was what I had read. It was one of the first to be created and one of the last to be operated. And you know what you might call the city limits.
You know, that's very much true. When they came in the 1880s, a lot of what we call Chicago was still sort of wilderness, and it wasn't developed, and it was neighborhoods grew closer to the downtown part of the city. Well, when my grandfather chose that area, the weather close to the lake would afford you a little bit probably earlier spring and maybe a little bit later fall, you know, so your growing season was a little bit better. Then they'd horse and wagon all the vegetables to the old market on Southwater Street. Not Southwater Market, but Southwater Street. And then as time went on and things progressed, they built what they called the New Market.
Wait, now when you say that was I'm not joking, but that was the street right on the river.
Yes.
That was Southwater.
Exactly.
Okay.
And that's where they went. That was the local meeting point to market your vegetables. Things that you grew, flowers, vegetables, somewhat fruit. We have some good fruit around the Chicagoland area. Berries, deciduous, peaches, apples and stuff. So they all gathered there with the things that they grew. And then they'd come back. The horse and wagon was the way that they would market it. And I remember one of my father's good stories was that because they were close to the lake, when the horse worked hard in the summertime, they'd unhitch the horse, he'd get up on the horse and take it out and go swimming horseback in the lake. And he said it was the coolest sensation.
And the South Water Market was built then, what, you said about 1925 or so?
About 1925, I believe it was when it was built, 25. And it opened up, and it was the aftermath, the bigger settling point to where things were in the city. And it was modernized in those days. It was next to the old Maxwell Street station area, and a lot of people from a lot of different cultures came there. And my father used to explain to me that everything in a city was built around transportation, and food. So that was it. It was the center. It was the hub. It was Maxwell Street. It was where every culture came together and became one, like our great city does.
Nice, nice. Before we get off of the farm, I guess there was a operating windmill there?
Yes, he had a windmill. And funny thing was, he was a Frenchman. Everybody, we all think of the windmill as the Dutch, but in Europe, a lot of the cultures in the interior shared a lot of the same things, and it was a way to garner and harness some energy and different things. And the Dutch farmers around this city, and they were wonderful, and in southwestern Michigan, stayed to the south side. So here was this lone Frenchman with his windmill, a little crazy, but growing his crops all summer long.
If I read correctly, that was his nickname, right? The French farmer?
Yeah, French
What
farmer.
they call him. And what some of the things you were growing, he was growing things that were, like you said, indigenous to France, but you told me a little story about watercress and okra.
Watercress and okra, as things came along and got a little bit further on, they looked for things that you could transport. And we got into the 40s and the 50s. It wasn't so much trucking in those days, that was still yet to come, but it was by rail. And so in the old market, every market had a box that was strange to me as a child because it was inoperative. But in reality, it was a Western Union box. And they called down to different regions, Tennessee or places that could be serviced within a couple of days to Chicago, Louisiana for one thing. And my dad used to get a lot of watercress. It used to come in by the big wooden barrel and all top iced. And it'd come in and it'd bring it in from Louisiana down in the Cajun country, as we would call it now. And then we get a lot of okra out of Tennessee. And I remember reading some of the messages, and they were all in print on the Western Union cable. But I could hear almost the gentleman speaking. Hey, Mr. Hankey, we just got some of the best watercress, leaves as big as a silver dollar. You be proud. I'll do you right.
Nice.
And you know, that's a good saying, I'll do you right, because in the produce industry, it's a motto that you could live by forever and ever, the past and the future yet to come. Taking care of people, feeding them right, giving them good product, taking care of the farmer.
Nice. And if you could please share briefly the story about the queen coming to Chicago and the watercress.
Well, the watercress in the aftermath, it's good that you mentioned that, Vince, is because years to come later, and I believe it was in the 50s or 60s, the royalty in England notified my father that in 5 months the queen was going to come and stay at the Drake Hotel, and that she was not a fanatic, but by her diet, ate watercress all 3 meals. So it was essential that she was catered to. My dad goes, you know what, she's coming in May, so we're maybe, that was irrelevant, it had to be done. You know, there again too, as far as mottos go in the industry is, I like to work with the chefs that I do because they're not the bigger chefs, they're the smaller ones. And it has to be done. And so my dad, with plenty of notice and stuff, pulled things like from out of Louisiana and made sure that she was covered for her whole duration. Nice. And Chicago was a shining star to the British royalty.
Nice, nice. Okay, so now your grandpa George and your dad Hank are running the company, and then this little guy Tommy, he's like about 5 years old, or even younger, you said?
Yeah, even younger. I was 3, 4 when he'd bring me down. It'd be a full day, and I couldn't get enough. And you know, I knew it interfered with my naps, and I was causing a little havoc between mom and dad. And mom saying, hey, you know, he shouldn't be going those hours. But you know what? I was a good companion to my dad. My dad loved all his kids. I was the last one. I don't want to say I was special, but maybe the last hope. My other brothers and sisters had basically gotten into other careers and all very successful and all different. And then, you know, there was Tommy left at home, you know, and I think it sort of stuck. I loved being with him. I liked the schedule. He knew I couldn't get enough, and it was no matter what I did in my life, I felt it was already in my blood, and that was where I was going to stay. And I love it to this day more so than ever.
It truly, the passion shows as it comes out of you. And your mom was involved as well with the bookkeeping part of it or something with the company as well?
My mom had a family situation when she was younger, so she took care of a lot of her younger brothers and sisters, had to quit school at the age of 16. And she was really, really in tune to school. As she told me, she was due to be the valedictorian, but she had to quit and take care of the family. So as time went on, then she had her family and things got away. But at the age of 65, she went back to high school, got her GED degree, and then my father had an illness in the business where the bookkeeper had to go. So she found actually her career at the age of 67. And it was wonderful because as much as I had loved my mother and father at home, Now I got to enjoy them even more, and that was at work. And they were good business partners, they were good companions, and I can tell you they were best friends.
Nice.
I'll never forget the love.
Nice. It's showing through you. Changes you've seen. I mean, I read a little bit about how changes from fruit being loaded by hand, how it was getting here, trucks and railroad, now it's by plane. Tell me what you've seen change with that.
Well, everything's changed because things that took a while with perishables put everything in jeopardy. Now, for example, I can call to a California farm, if that's what we utilize, at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, our time. It can be harvested, cooled down, put on a plane. It's a 4.5 hour flight, and I can pick it up at 2 o'clock in the morning.
That's
So it's a wonderful thing. It's faster than I can do things sometimes even out of Illinois. But in aftermath to the story about the Queen, years later, my dad was the one who took care of the Queen. But when Princess Di came, she did the big humanitarian thing in Chicago, and they featured her at the museum. They let me know months and months before she came. And I got fraise du bois, the little French strawberries, and rouge and blanche, red and white, and all different things. And to the highlight of my career in a lot of ways was that People magazine, after she left, noted that while she was in Chicago, it was the finest food ever served. So not only was I proud, but I was happy that the 2 mentors I had, and my grandfather and my father, still lived on.
That's beautiful. I mean, it really is. Something, if you want to tell us about how the integrity and the relationships that you have with the farmers, shippers, and another word that I learned today called the forages.
Foragers, right?
Forages. So if you could tell us a little bit about that.
Well,
please.
it's a good thing that I come from a farming background, because I was taught something different than any other business. And Vince, as we all know, and certainly in what you do and everything, the customer is the most important part of business. Satisfying the customer, pleasing the customer, day after day after day, no lapse in service, quality, pricing. And my grandfather scolded me. Don't believe that. I said, what do you mean? It's essential. It's in every business. Mm-hmm. Don't believe that. And I said, well, what do you mean? If you don't take care of the farmer, and you don't have a wonderful farmer, and help the farmer, teach the farmer, learn from the farmer, market for the farmer, you'll never have a good customer. So you want to take care of your customer? No. Take care of your farmer. Your good customers will always be there if you take care of the good farmer. Nice. How true he was.
Nice. And to back up also a little bit, when the South Water Market did open, your grandpa had a big hand in representing everybody, farmers and guys that were selling as well, for representation.
Yes,
and for
that wound up
pricing.
being his change, his career change and everything else too. But was it one that he wanted? No, not necessarily. I was explained to that he was sort of plucked out. And why? Because in those days, there was farmers of all different caliber, all different types. Just as we see it when we go to the farmers markets now. We see some that have this or some that have that and everything. And not to mention anything that comes out of the ground is good, but it's caliber. And you rate it as a different way. How it's raised, how it's picked, everything else too. So my grandfather's role was actually not from a farmer then, and not necessarily a marketer, but a liaison. And it was to make sure that all the good farmers got represented and treated right. And you know, it's a good thing because the market philosophy still holds true. No matter what you do or whatever you do, quality always speaks out first, and it stands out. And that was my grandfather's role. God bless him.
Nice. I'm sure something that you've seen change along the way is business law, or I know you talked a bit about the Department of Agriculture. Now that we're bringing all this importing from other countries, how rigid the standards are that you said.
It is very much inspected when you come from out of a country or a different area. And reason being is not only the quality and making sure that things meet a health standard and a quality standard and chemicals and stuff, but more importantly, what we don't realize is that how prevalent we are with agriculture in this country. We're the food bowl in so many ways. You know, for example, in California, marvelous state, primary source of business in California is still agriculture. And so the thing is that I don't know if everybody remembers, certainly not, but at one time there was a situation with medfly from Europe and whitefly from Baja California, that if in fact the produce comes in and it's not inspected, it gets in there, we can get an epidemic or a virus. And at one time with medfly, we were in jeopardy with our citrus crop in California. And that cannot be. We are so strong, so prevalent in the world, not only in the United States and what we export, that nothing should ever be. So the standards that USDA puts on and the government and inspection and everything is excellent. Even to the point where I get things from Hawaii and they get the stamp from the Department of Agriculture of California. Not only in the United States, but California, because the regulations, the standards, the inspections out of the state of California are even more rigid, more stringent than the United States, because the United States has the frost belt. California doesn't. We need to protect our agriculture.
And it could be not just the pleasure of having a peach or whatever comes from there, but economically, it could be devastating.
Exactly. And you know what? We're really blessed in the United States in the fact is that, look at our climate. We go from Alaska to Florida. We go to the beaches of California where it's sunny and we think about the oranges, all the way up to Maine where you have some really good blueberries and stuff like that. So every part of our country endows us with different things that are indigenous there. So we're not only blessed with everything, we go up the scale as far as palate, almost surpassing anywhere else in the world, because there's nothing we want for. We have it. We're blessed.
Nice. What can you tell me about, globally now? How it used to be when I was a kid, I remember we didn't see peaches only in the summer. Now you can get anything seasonal, I guess, because of shipping and everything all the way, all around the world and stuff. What can you tell us about that?
I can tell you it's interesting and it's fascinating. Just like we talk about the indigenous regions in the United States and how we get things from different places, sometimes we get things and we foot the bill, like asparagus, or like you say, peaches, and we get them from South America. But they're not tree ripened. They're picked a little bit sooner, and we have the pleasure of having them, but we don't have the goodness as when we get the seasons. So we're never wanting, but like I say, as we get into the United States and the agricultural regions, we look to every part of the country to have a different season. We pretty much got it together here.
Yeah, we can get whatever we want, and pretty much any time we want now. We'll spend just a couple minutes briefly now that besides, I know you have a little branch off of the company called Marché des Fleurs.
Marché des Fleurs.
Marché des Fleurs.
Well,
I don't speak French.
No, but you speak Italian quite well, and those two cultures too in Europe and stuff like that with all the different things. For example, the puntarella, the tartivio, the chioggia beets, the Italian striped lemon. These are things that our two cultures, for example, the pousse pied, the crozna, that the French and the Italians have brought in. What has happened is, that we're so blessed with so many things that our palate increased. We have a better global understanding of products. Then the second thing that happened in Chicago, the perfect melting pot in the United States.
Sure.
For example, look at the Hispanic cultures. And we go to Los Angeles, the West Coast metropolitan giant, and we look at a lot of Mexican and Central American Hispanics. But if we go across the country and go to New York, we look at so much of the Puerto Rican and the Caribbean population. What's the similarity? None. Sit in a city council meeting in Chicago and look at the Puerto Rican population and the Mexican population. Two different demands, two different cultures. We are the perfect equal melting pot. So we enjoy the best of Mexican restaurants, regional as they may be. Maybe Oaxacan and Cazuelas, or Jalisco, or Tex-Mex out of Laredo, or we go to Puerto Rican and we have some of the best, Our people are wonderful. We stand together here in this city better than any other city in the country because of our food.
Right. And if you want to vote for Tommy, go to Vote for Tommy. Speaking of, your website is phenomenal and educational. And now talk about technology. People can order online and use service through hotels, restaurants, and
I do mostly
catering.
Restaurants and a couple of catering companies. I like the independent operation, big or little, whatever it may be, hot dogs or fine dining, haute cuisine, that is operated by the chef with chef control. And the reason being is communications is the most essential process to serving fine dining and good foodstuffs. So if I hear it from a chef, I know where I'm at. If I get into a bigger corporation, I hear it third hand, I might make a mistake unintentionally, and then I'm in trouble. But the key to success is communications. I love my chefs. I feel like I'm subservient. Every day I can't wait to take care of them. Every day is another adventure. Every day is a new demand. Every day is another global situation that all of a sudden this food is in trend. Get it.
And I'm sure they love you. If you go to the website, you'll see some other things that Tommy has done. I'm going to take this anyway so you can tell us a little bit about what's here. But this was, because we could do a whole show on this, about how vegetables used to get to the people with horse and wagons and trucks like this.
That's your roots too.
Yeah, so it was my first job with that guy, Nick Pappas. So anyways, let me take this out of the way. And then if you want to start and tell us about what we have here, maybe start here a little bit.
Well, I bought a random sampling of things. And the reason being is that the world of food encompasses so many different ethnic groups and types of food, roots, rhizomes, deciduous, citrus. I can throw out terms left and right that encompasses the world of produce. But what I did was I thought, let's make it a little bit interesting: size, color, variation, derivation, point of origin, usage today. Here, so many times now we hear the term heirloom and we think about potatoes, we think about tomatoes, we think about carrots, all different ones. This is a squash, and it's a blue Hubbard squash. It comes to terms now that a lot of people that raise it call blue ballet. I think about my grandfather, and if I told him I had blue ballets, he'd scold me. What do you got? That's blue Hubbard. And this is a blue Hubbard squash that comes in a green, also comes in a red or a bright orange, sweet and nutty like you wouldn't believe. Marketability, you know what, up until the present day, people look at that and say, what's going on here? Why is this and why is that? That's no good. Is it decaying? No, it's nature. Why do we have freckles? You know,
It's
this
a
is
blemish.
the way that it was created. The goodness is inside. Do we eat with our eyes or our mouth? The goodness is inside. And we go over to Mexico and we find the hacha-cha, the habanero, you know, what so many different hot peppers now and everything available. The king of the hot pepper is a habanero. Why? Do we look at it for the heat? No, it's fruity in flavor. The heat is in the membrane, not in the seed, not in the skin. And if you really, really get past the heat, if you understand the pepper, marvelous, marvelous. The Jerusalem artichoke, or what the Americans call now the sunchoke. Pretty funny looking, isn't it? With all the different growth. It's the way it is. You know what it is? It's a diabetic's potato. It grows underground. It's a prime source of starch.
But it's an artichoke?
No sugar. Is it an artichoke? It's an artichoke like this, an artichoke, a Chinese artichoke or a crow's nut. It grows under the ground. Do you categorize it as a rhizome like ginger? No, because it doesn't have that properties. But is it really an artichoke? More to the root value than what we know as the fruit of the artichoke or the blossom end. Okay, here, I brought you a couple of kinds of oriental radishes, Asian radishes. I brought you, some of us know what a daikon is. It's a long white radish. It's used in cooking methods more so than in hand eating.
Looks like a big white carrot.
Yeah.
Look at that.
How beautiful is this? This is something, too, that would be like an heirloom, but not to us, to across the seas. In Asia, this would be something that you'd find only regionally in certain parts. Flavor is excellent. Look at how it glistens, Vince.
That is beautiful. When you say
Just
an heirloom,
wonderful.
tell us what you mean exactly by that, because you hear that a lot about tomatoes. These are heirloom tomatoes.
Heirloom. And I'll tell you why.
And I can figure the word, but how does it
Tomato
apply
is the one that's most commonly assessed to, and that's because it doesn't hold up in the market. It can only be picked ripe. Is it red? Is it deep purple? Is it striped? Is it white? It's all of those, whichever tomato you pick, but it comes from a different area. It might be Amish. It might be German, like the big red beefsteak tomatoes. It could be French, like the Marmande. It could be like the San Marzano out of Italy. It could be from anywhere. But it's only picked ripe because flavor comes from ripeness. However, we got to correct the American people. We're too used to going to get the perfect fruit. The perfect fruit, the perfect vegetable is not what we see, but what we eat. So the heirloom all of a sudden came in prevalence because we got a little educated. We decided that it wasn't the perfect yellow banana. It was the yellow banana with the brown spots on the discount rack, because the brown spots actually nature's way of showing sugar's coming out. This is the closest thing to ripe on the tree. And I mean, we all enjoy a good banana because it's probably the largest selling item in the produce industry. You see it in the forefront of every produce market. But do we know how to eat it right? No, we eat it where it comes out of an ethylene room where it's treated with gas to get ripened, like a paintbrush. We want nature's way. Are the spots bad? No, they're good. That's our indicator. Eat me now. I'm ready. Don't eat me when I'm beautiful. Eat me when I'm ready.
We're running short on time, so please, if you can, just kind of walk through these. So
I'll go
we don't
quick
miss
now.
out.
And the fact is that, let's go to the Italian items. This is a cicoria, or chicory. It's called a puntarella. And if you look at all the little different globes inside. I'm going to pull one out and you can hear how good this is.
Fresh.
See how it snaps and fresh. It's a bitter green. And in the same family as that, we all know what radicchio is, but one thing we'll never see because it's not grown here domestically is tardivio. And tardivio is a cicoria too. Wonderful. Not only in design, as it's got beautiful character, but in flavor. It's a much richer flavor than normal or typical radicchio. And we go over to here and we'll take a look at a beet crop out of Italy. Comes from the region around Chioggia, and it's just gorgeous, isn't it?
It is.
As we cook that or introduce it to heat, should we choose that, it becomes the most opulent and translucent pink. And just to show you too, look at, there's so many things about this radish that's so attractive. And you know what? We're blessed with taking it one step further. It's wonderful to eat. It's so earthy. It's not sweet like a sugar beet. It's more earthy.
And so we don't miss out. But this I've never. I don't know if anybody.
This is, you know what, Vince? Gotta have one. Out of the Mojave Desert, they're dried on the branch. The sugar stays there.
Can you excuse me for just a second? I'm sorry. Hello. Yeah, Tommy Cornille, the best. It's like a walking encyclopedia. Oh. Okay. All right. I'll try to make it. Bye. I forgot. I scheduled another meeting. I mean, after the show, and I guess we ran too long. But God bless you. I want to thank you for being here. These cannolis are for you.
Oh, the cannoli.
I mean it from my heart. Walking encyclopedia, CornilleProduce.com.
What a pleasure it's been to be with you.
God love you.
My good friend.
All right. I'm sorry I have to leave. I thank you so much for being here.
I miss you.
This guy gets up works at 3 in the morning.
Well, we're into it by then. We're looking at lunch around the
When
corner.
the rest of the world is snoozing, you're out there working your heart out. God bless you, your family, and everybody at Cornille Produce.
Thanks so much again.
Thanks for being here. I just shown a gentleman by the name of Nick Pappas, who was one of my first jobs worked for him. And I've spent a long time trying to find him or his family just to make contact, share some memories. So if anybody out there remembers him or knows how to get a hold of him or his family, send me an email at busyguy.co. And I'd love to hear from, like I say, either him or his family. He used to go up and down the alleys selling produce, and mostly in the Austin district area in the city. And I'm just taking a good advantage of the show that I have to send that word out. If anybody can get a hold of me, I would love to hear from him or his family. His name was Nick Pappas, and as you can see on his truck, it said, "Ma, grab your bag, here comes Nick." So.
We take great pride in our work. I think that is one of the best parts about being Italian is the passion that runs through our veins. You know, it's undeniable.
The Italian-American heritage. Live it, love it, celebrate it.